And then during the location scout, the director wants, Michael Yates wants to, I want a little bit more than just tilting the camera. Top of a street that comes at you like a wave. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? It was like a wave, you know? And I was hoping that the sets department is going to push back, frankly. Our set supervisor, Frank Tai, is amazing. So within 4 days, he came back with a rig that I can actually animate the sets, you know, and say, oh shit, you know, now I have to do it.
All right, well, welcome to Artist in Motion. This is our podcast about interviewing film and animation creatives about their career, how they got to where they are, their art, their own, inspiration and process for their work, and their life, what makes them fulfilled and how that's changed over the years. I'm really excited for this first episode to be talking with Patrick Lin.
Thank you,
Patrick,
Isaac.
yeah, it's good to see you again.
Yes.
And Patrick, for context, he's a cinematographer and layout artist who's been primarily working at Pixar for over 20 years now, 25
It's
years,
28.
28 years. Wow.
You can say coming up 30.
Coming up on your 30th. Wow. Are you going to do anything special for your 30th? Gonna-
Well, hopefully I get a cup of free coffee, but
Yeah. All
the
right.
chances are slim.
Yeah, if you're still working.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll just really quickly say it so you don't have to say it, but you've had
Okay.
a really long, illustrious career at Pixar. I mean, working as a cinematographer or layout lead for The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Up, Inside Out, Toy Story 4, most recently Win or Lose, working as also lead layout artist or in the camera department on dozens of other projects from A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters University, the shorts, The Blue Umbrella and Bow, and a lot of others that I'm not mentioning. But yeah, I'm just curious for you hearing me read those out. Like, how does it feel to hear your own, credits listed like that? Like, how do you?
Yeah, that's a lot. I don't know. I mean, it's like you just start working on this project, one project at a time, and time does fly when you're having fun, and it's been super fun. And this doesn't feel like 28 years, that's for sure. I feel like
Yeah.
maybe no more than 20 right now. Yeah,
Yeah, 20 years is still a
yeah,
long time. No,
yeah. But
yeah.
most projects are fun when you look back. But when you're working on it, sometimes it's painful. But looking
Yeah.
back is fun, you know. So you'll remember the good parts.
I'm curious, is there anything unique about like Pixar's process that allows the work to at least be fun in retrospect or throughout the process? Like how,
It's kind of cliche. It's the people, really, because I worked at other places before, and it is not this collaborative. It is not this ego free. You know, everyone is really just trying to make the film better. I've worked at places before that when you try to ask the questions to your colleagues or others, they might not want to give you the answer. You know, I think it's like because like the better you get, you know, you become a threat to their job. I think, you know, so you have to be. When I first started at Pixar, I just remember like the first week, you know, and someone sent out an email say, "Hey, how do you do this?" And then within minutes, there's like 10 email answering that questions, and I think that was eye opening for me. You know, as well. You know, I mean, people can be collaborative like this. You know, so it really is the people that helps make our film this good. You know, from the top to the bottom. You know, it's like from the directors, they have their own brain trust. You know, they'll discuss their film. They'll dissect it. You know, they'll give really hard notes, but it's not personal, right? You're just trying to make the project better, and they just keep asking these kind of questions, and in the process, I think makes the film better. And the same with my department, you know, it's like we would once we have finished building a sequence, we'll all sit down together and we'll take a look, together, and then everyone can contribute, and another thing that's different is I've worked at other places before that sometimes you don't see the director that often. Like right on James and Jan Peach, I was the camera assistant, and I worked there for geez, like a whole year, right? I might seen Henry Selick 5 times. I don't really feel like I'm working for the director. I just feel like I'm working. I was a camera assistant, so I just feel like I was working for the camera operator. So we when I'm at Pixar, I really when we have a review, we are with the director. We get notes from the director. If I have any, because I'm working on the shots, I know what the problem is. So if I see something that's not working, I can talk directly to the director. So there's a direct interactions that just makes you feel like you're working on a film together. So I want to make the film better. I want to achieve the director's vision. And the best way is like talking to the directors directly. And yeah, all those I think helps makes Pixar kind of like a special place for me.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And now take me back beyond that first week there. Like, how did you end up at Pixar? Did you always plan it to be that way? Did you always know you were going in that
Oh
animation
no.
cinematography?
Oh no. Far from it. I always like animations, but I just can't really draw that well. Always like film. So when I went to film school, traditional film school. I actually studied live actions in the Bay Area. And in the Bay Area, it doesn't really have a lot of live action production. So it's kind of hard to find a job. Like getting into the industry was a little bit tough. I did like one internship when I was in school. I worked in a Bigfoot movie, which is kind of a second unit Bigfoot movie. I worked there for like for a weekend. And I was excited, but a lot of the shot that I worked on was cut. It wasn't there. It was a little disappointed, and anyway, so that was my first experience, and it was really hard to find a live action job up here. So what we do have a lot up here in the Bay Area is special effects company because Lucasfilm is up here. After like a few years, I got a job as a camera assistant at this special effects houses that they specialized in doing ride films. So it's like Star Tours. It was basically filming the film, and then you give it to the company. They'll program that. The most important one is the one for IMAX. For that particular one, it has a stop motion character in it. So we hired this animator who just came off of Nightmare Before Christmas. So it was my first animation experience. So I was working with him for like 3-4 months on this project. So got to kind of know how animation works. And then afterwards, he said, "Well, hey, we're making a new film, James and Jan Peach. You want to come over and help us?" This is kind of like a good gateway drugs, right? So it's kind of half live actions, half animations. You still use real cameras, real film, shooting the puppets. So and you still use real lights, So it is something that I'm familiar with, and also it's a whole new world too. And then since it's a Disney company, they said, hey, this company Pixar is working on a CG film, right? And we know that I know Pixar at that time because of their short films. Because we're all working for Disney, they just finished the Army Man sequence in the first Toy Story, and they just show it to us, and I was blown away. The whole company was blown away. The detail, how much fun it was. After James and Giant Peach came out, it wasn't a very successful movie. The company that did a Skellington production sort of kind of dissolved after that. So there was really no stop motion animation job. And then I was thinking I really like computer animations. I really wanted to see if I can get into it. So I applied to two places. So I applied to Pixar, of course, and I applied to PDI. PDI was
Yeah.
sorry.
But at this point, when you were applying, had you had any experience in computer animation?
Oh no, yeah, I know, yeah. But I thought, hey, because I kind of like animations, and it seems like something that I can do. So I kind of asked around. So is there any like camera equivalent, in the computer animation world? And someone told me, oh yeah, I could apply for to layout. Okay, I'll apply to layout. But I did not get an interview from PDI, but I did get an interview from Pixar. So, and it was a long process. It was like 3 interviews over 9 months. It was a long interview process.
Wow.
At first, I actually applied to working on Toy Story 2. Back then, it was direct to video. So I figured, that seems like something is a good start. And then I didn't get that job. And then, but one of the manager who is working on A Bug's Life saw my interview, so I went back in for a second interview with her for A Bug's Life, and then I went back for a third interview, meeting some other creative from A Bug's Life. So and so I ended up getting hired for A Bug's Life. Yeah, so that's how I got into Pixar. So once I got started, it's like they're looking for someone who has more of a traditional filmmaking background. So I kind of fit the bill. So it's easy to teach me computer than rather to teach someone filmmaking. I think that's their rationale. I thought it's just gonna be a one film gig, you know,
Yeah.
because that's how the industry worked at that time,
Uh,
right? It's just like you work on a film. After you're done, you look for another job. So that's how it is. But how Pixar operates more like a startup. So yeah,
okay. So they keep their family close.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, it's not easy to train people. At back then, it's more specialized, and even right now, because we use the proprietary software, and it takes time to train up people. It's not that you can just grab anyone from the streets that can do it. So yeah, so I've been there ever since.
So your timeline, you came into Pixar and you're working primarily as a layout artist, and
Hmm.
then it was Incredibles that was your first
It
um,
was the first
uh,
DP, yeah.
first DP.
Hmm.
What is the main difference in your own process or day-to-day work from a layout artist to a DP? Um,
It was more like it was more gradual. I didn't go from layout artist to DP. On A Bug's Life, I started as a layout artist, and then within that show, they want to alleviate the supervisor a little bit more day to day meetings. So they start to have implement like a sequence lead. So you take this sequence, and you will be basically handling all the delegations, right? So I started doing that, and so Bug's Life my first sequence lead. And then I think they more formalized that position on Toy Story 2. So we have four sequence leads because Toy Story 2 was a really compact schedule. We made that film within 10 months, basically. It's like we really got started in January, and then the film came out in November. And then next movie I worked on is Monster Inc. Basically the layout DP to decided to have one layout lead for the entire show, and he picked me. There was like a whole year to 2 years of training. So I would go to a lot of meetings. I was talking to people, so it kind of trained me up in terms of all the basic working of making a CG film. Right, so I kind of know more about it. So
and
that
that's
kind of set
and
me
that
up. Yeah.
training and that training is to not it's beyond just cinematography skills, but it's actually so you can work with
Yeah.
other parts of the pipeline, talk with other
Mm-hmm.
team members and team leads, and
Mm-hmm.
like because my understanding
Mm-hmm.
is that the cinematographer or the DOP of for camera and staging is you're giving a lot more directives to the artists who are actually laying out the shots, but then you're also the pinpoint of the for other departments to come to talk more creatively or align on
Mm-hmm.
things. Is that right?
Yes. You kind of like, because layout is the first step into the 3D environment. And you're basically taking the boards and translating that, and need to make everything works within that 3D environment. So there's a lot of things you need to get ready, right? So you need the sets, you need the characters, you need the props, you need to know where the light is. So you kind of need to coordinate a lot of things, to get everything ready so that we can lay that foundation for all the department downstream. So there's a lot of things to coordinate.
Yeah, I'm realizing now it's like we talk so much about the coordination, but like what's your own process within like typical process within a project for how you approach what language you want to even, use for the storytelling or references you want to pull from, beyond before you get into the technical side of
Yeah,
it.
the process sort of evolved, right? Because like when I first started, we just need to get the shot out. that's that's the most important thing. And the funny thing is, because the medium is so new. The first Toy Story, there was really no like layout department. The department sort of like formed at the very end. I mean, you have a few people doing the layout, but how they do layout is they just do the T post. They don't really they just to put the character in the scene. There's no It's not really talking about cinematography. You're just basically putting the character in the scene with the T pose so the animators can do the posing, right? And even when I started on A Bug's Life, the first scene I see that was completed is still do the T pose, and they were moving the characters around, but there's no blocking whatsoever. I love action figures. So when I was a kid growing up, I loved playing with GI Joe, and I still do. I still buy a lot of Hot Toys right now, and I love those posable figures. I love them. And then when I started playing with the character in the computer, it's like God, action figure on steroid. Everything is posable, right? It is so much fun to actually pose the character, and I think it'll be more accurate to pose the character so it can frame the shot more properly. So I think it's more spontaneous. I didn't say that I started it, but I think we all kind of see that within a few months. I started, it's like the first few sequences I started. I think it's kind of spontaneous. Everyone's doing it. And at first, it's just very simple posing. And then the editor back then was Lee Unkrich. He was of course, he was director of like Toy Story 3, Coco. And back then, he was the editor. So how he edited the film, he would ask for more poses. So we'll do more poses, and then become more of a natural process. So that's how everything got started. We're not really thinking about cinematography at that much, I don't think. We're just thinking, okay, the shot. What is the meaning of this shot? What is the purpose of the shot? One thing that is always consistent is we always treat the camera as very physical. We do never want to do those very CG camera movement. We don't do like super quick camera. We don't have the camera go like the flying impossible camera move. We just try to really use traditional film language to shoot it. So I think that might be the basis of what we do cinematography wise. Yeah, even when I started on The Incredibles, there's some structure. I gotta say, it's like in the beginning, right? So in the beginning is the golden age of the superhero. So the lighting is all very bright, and then the last scene, the sunsets. It's like a sunset for the superhero.
And he gets married.
And we got married, yeah. And then when is working at the insurance company, we purposefully use a really real long lens to just compress the space. And then when he began to getting those secret jobs, then we start to bring some of those dynamic camera back in. But there wasn't really like a very detailed plans. It's like you're just shooting it, you know, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But I feel like I mean, your work has spanned so many different genres from like the action of Incredibles or like more intimate sequences in Up or like trying to contrast different worlds in Inside Out. Like with each film, it seems like an evolution in, different ways of approaching storytelling. Do you see your own approach changing much between the films, or are you still kind of dealing with the same ideas of personality and character
The
and
I
conflict?
think the how I approach it is kind of the same. And my next film after Incredibles was Ratatouille. And then I was a DP on Ratatouille in the beginning. And then I started to think, it's like we can do a little bit more. We can actually plan this out a bit better. And at that time, before Brad Bird took over, the original director was Jan Pickevar. And at that time, the film is really about alienations. Back then, the rat colony is kind of like it's like a gypsy colony. They kind of move from places to places looking for food. And the idea is that like Remy wants to be a chef, and the more he was working to become a chef, more he's alienating his family and his origin. So he become more and more human, basically. right? So I thought, oh, this is actually a good way to structure a camera to his internal struggle, right? So we have I devised like a rat cam and a human cam, right? This is how I shoot the rats. I'll shoot it like the gypsy, more handheld, more steady cam. Humans are very stuck up. There's like lock off camera, with a very mechanical camera movement. So this is how it was devised. And as Remy becomes more and more human, I will change the camera style, based on his internal state. You know, so the camera would like more and more becomes human shooting him. Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I need to rewatch that so to see
Yeah,
this
that was the okay.
now.
That was the
Yeah.
original plan. That was the original
Okay.
plan. Okay, and then I think Jan couldn't really get the story to work. So John Lasseter at that time asked Brad Bird to take over the film. Okay, so after Brad took over the film, unfortunately, I did not work very well with Brad. I mean, we have some disagreement when we were working on The Incredible. So they took me off of the DP. So I became like a lead layout artist. Yeah, and at that time, we also was trying to. We have a plan to implement a lens distortion too. Because back then, just computer animations, the camera is like a pinhole camera. There was no distortion. If you just too wide of a lens, all the straight lines is looks off. You need the distortion to make it feel natural because that's what the audience feel like. In Jan's version, all the rats they're walking like human, like a biped. But when Brad took over, he wants the rats to actually walk like rats. Like so there was a big project to change all the rigging for the rats. So where do you take the money out? You take the money out from the distortions. So we couldn't do the distortion. So the first
Okay.
distortion is on Wally.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my first time that I was thinking that we can actually shoot the film by having like two different opposing camera movement based on the inner struggle of characters. But it didn't work out because I was taken off a project. The next film after Ratatouille, I was lucky enough that I got on Up. So on Up, we're looking how do I use camera to support the idea of Up. So I was looking for what is the movie's about. So the camera is really based on the more like a philosophical struggle of the characters, right? It's the old versus the new. It's the pessimism versus the optimism. The static versus the dynamic. You can kind of see that in the production design. It's the circle versus the square. Russell is round, Carl is square. The balloon is round, the house is square. This contrast. So the camera is based on the static versus the dynamic. So in the beginning, everything is kind of calm. Start with lock off, and then there's some camera movement, and then after they got married, it's a bunch of very graceful camera movement, moving just lateral or pushing in, tracking. And then once Ellie's death, all the cameras locked off. And also, I'm a big fan of Ozu, so I did an Ozu for that. From the shot right after the funeral to the shot before you see the balloon, for that was like almost 150 shots. All those are shot with like one lens, a 50 millimeter. I took out the distortions, so everything is straight. Almost every shot on Carl is a down angle, looking down on him. So opposite of Ozu, and then lots of like frame in frame, just trying to trap him. So it means like this is his like most static, the most trapped, emotion the lowest. So and then for like 5 minutes, you're watching this one lens, no camera movement, and then boom, when the balloon comes up, I go super wide lens with the maximum distortions and with the camera tilt, and then a bunch of camera movement when the house lifts off. So you kind of feel that. So yeah, that's kind of the idea, So this is the static versus the dynamic. And I thought it works pretty well. I think we can do a little bit more, but I think whatever kind of plan I had for Up, I think we implemented maybe 80% of the ideas in it. I think that's pretty good.
I see. And then also with Win or Lose in particular, that was I feel like you really were grappling with a clear internal external divide in not only like a change in how a character might relate or but you're actually transitioning between two different, perspectives on the same reality. I'm curious, could you talk a little bit more about how you approached that or what were some of the challenges of dealing with both an inner and outer world.
Yeah, I think the difference with Win or Lose is first it's a TV series with 8 episodes, and another different thing about it is like with eight main characters, and every one of them has a different struggles. So so it was really hard to find a common thread for them, because I don't want to for every episode there's a different camera language. That would be a too not very unified, I think. And besides our each episode is so short. It's not like it's not like a 45 hour minute episode. Every episode is about 20 minutes long.
I'm curious between all of the different personalities, like which was your favorite character to work with in the cinematography?
I think it turns out to be Van and Rochelle's episodes because first of all the two episodes were connected. So I think the whole production it was like a little over 2 years of productions, and Rochelle and Van is in the first year. The first year is a little bit more fun because story wise it's a little bit more solid. We have the entire episode approved for productions, and we can pick and choose which one which scene to work on, and we have a little bit more time to think and play around. If you talk about those transitions, those creative transitions, that 2 episodes is the most because we have more time to play. And I wanted to do more for Kai and for Coach, but we just didn't have time. We're down to the wire, and then also I was also losing people to feature films too. So I mean, with less and less people, and then we still have a lot of work needs to do. So we have less time to play around with those transitions. And then yeah, those transitions, some are in the boards, but a lot of them are not. It's like we just saw an opportunity and went to play with it. We need to work with sets to come up with a sets that can accommodate those transitions. So everything takes a little bit more time, which we don't have. So it'd be nice to have more time.
Yeah, I see. That's so interesting because I did notice with Vanessa and Rochelle like episodes, there was a similar dynamic camera and transition. And I actually made the connection that it was, the mother-daughter relationship, and the way that both their powers also allow them to kind of, elevate or move around. I mean, Rochelle's is more of a personality that she's adopting, but it is a feeling of gravity going up and down, and Vanessa at least has the ability to fly around or snap and
Hmm.
use her magic
Yeah,
to go through the
yeah.
space.
The mummy's magic, we thought.
Yeah, like both of those just felt inherently like you were already in such a dynamic space to use those more dramatic camera movements. It's
Yeah, 'cause I think that's when we go, oh, we can do all these things, Like even the end of Rochelle's episode, though, when she was getting chased by chicken calf in the car, with
yeah.
the street with a wave coming at you. Those that is not boarded. When layout starts, I will usually do a location scout, kind of like a one frame location scout case to show the director, okay, we're gonna start here, and I'll step it through frame by frame. And then during the location scout, the director wants Michael Yates wants to I want a little bit more than just tilting the camera. You know, I just want the world really work against Rochelle. So how about it how about a streak that comes at you like a wave? And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean like a wave? And it was like a wave. It's like okay. And okay, well that sounds really hard, and we're in productions. And I was hoping this the sets department is going to push back. Frankly, you know.
Yeah. Were you all sitting there
But
together in the meeting? Like,
yeah, we're already in the meeting. Yeah,
all right.
so our set supervisor, Frank Tai, he's amazing. So within 4 days, he came back with a rig that I can actually animate the sets.
Wow. Wow.
And say, oh shit, now I have to do it. Like actually, when you look back, it's not that many shots. It's only 5 shots, I think, right? With the waves. But when we're doing, I think I did maybe like 20 shots to editorial, and they cut it down to 5.
I also wanted to ask more about the collaboration between your department and the lighting department. I know for you kind of in the animation it's split between lighting and camera and staging. And typically my understanding is that all the lighting is done afterward, but There are so many moments here that need such specific lighting, or like the lighting will change dramatically and have a character be silhouetted onto a field. Like, how did that present its challenges, or like how did that change how you had to collaborate with the lighting DOP?
We're lucky that we have nowadays we have a little bit more tools to communicate. We have something called layout lights, which is not. It's something that we can actually see in our live camera view. It's a GL light. So the basic idea is to not actually doing lighting for us, but it's just to let us know time of day, where's the key light coming from, what color is the key light, just so that we kind of have an idea, because if it's the dark sequence, you don't want it to be too dark because you still need to see what's going on in layout before turning the lights off, right? And also another thing that we do differently on Win or Lose is we render everything as soon as we have a location scout. Our lighting DP Brian Boy would just like throw in some lights, and then we'll start rendering it, and then so during the entire production of any given sequence, let's just say 4 months, we'll be seeing it quite often, in dailies. There's tons of communications, within that 4 months, almost on a daily basis, seeing the dailies, and the director comes in 2 days out of the 5 days, so we'll talk amongst ourselves. The directors comes in, and sometimes you'll see things broken for the longest time, and you just tell the director it's still broken. We know that. We'll fix it, So I think it's yeah, it's a different philosophy how we work on Win or Lose too. I mean, we're not chasing perfection, because we have a smaller budget. There's always stuff that we can change and fix, but if it's good, we'll final it and let it move on.
Yeah, I was wondering if you wanted to talk about the game night oneer for having such a long camera movement. Like, what was your thought process behind, how to construct this and get the beats right?
This is the second longest shot in the series. The longest one is when they're having the pizza party anyway. That was the longest shot. For this shot, the mandate was to trying to basically give people a preview in episode 1. And people will understand exactly what happened. And then hopefully the payoff is in episode 8. When you see it again, it gives you a new perspective, basically. That's the idea, right? Go, okay, I know exactly why people are acting that way. When we first construct the shots, we kind of know that we want to go through the park like that. We know this is how we want to start. We don't know how we're going to end, how we're going to go through it. So at first time we did it, the camera actually go under the bleacher, seeing chicken calf. It was a lot longer, and then the camera actually will fly through, like it could go through the fence, and then we'll end up seeing Lori coming in on the other side. So the shot was a lot longer. The shot was almost like a minute and a half.
Why was it, condensed?
So we make episode 1 and episode 8 almost at the same time. When we're making episode 8, we realized that we don't have enough resource to render a show that is longer than like 145 minutes, I think. I think that was it. And we're trying to trim the last episode. Yeah, and the last episode was at least 5 minutes too long. So with this one or being 1.5 minutes, the editors say, no, 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 you have 30 seconds. I said, 30 seconds? That's impossible. So it was like a long process, and then we just keep trimming it and trimming it, trying to condense it basically. So we don't go underneath the bleacher, we don't go to Lori, just trying to really boil down the essence of what we want to show. I think we end up having like a 40-second shots, 42-second shots. I think that was the compromise, yeah. Like if you kind of want to understand what's the difference between the camera of a perspective world versus the real world, I mean, this is the perfect example, because seemingly the two shots looks exactly the same, but the camera movement is different, because the first episode we see Lori's sweaty blob and her back, so it's a perspective shots, so the camera movement is a lot smoother. But in the last episode, it's not in the back, so it's this handheld. So you can see a difference here: smooth camera versus a walking camera, a little handheld camera. We actually use different lenses too. So the first episode is perspective, so it's the anamorphic lens. The last episode is not is using spherical lens. So the depth of field is different. Yeah.
And did you mention also in SIGGRAPH there was a difference in the was it the whether it was a nodal or
Yeah,
um,
the cameras. Yeah,
camera
the first
tripod?
episode is Nodo. The last one is when it's walking is offset.
Sweet. And could you just briefly explain for someone who might not know what that means, how what's the difference there?
So how what part of camera language of the perspective world versus the real world is the camera where we put the camera in real life. You put the camera in the world head so that the pan and tilt point is at the film plane. That's what called a nodal camera. So that when the camera is tilting and panning, you have no parallax. Everything is exactly where it needs to be. You know, when you put the camera on a tripod, the film plane is actually above where the pivot point is, right? Because you're tilting. So when you tilt down, the camera move forward. Tilt up, the camera move backwards. Or when you pan, there's an extra parallax. So those are called a non-nodal camera. For all the real world shots, our camera has offset from the camera head, so that when you pan and tilt, is a little bit off, kind of mimicking like the camera is on a tripod.
Hmm, I see. Wow. No, it's so specific. I love that.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of subtle, but I think you just want people to kind of feel the difference instead of, oh, I know exactly what they did. But yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think there's also an energy difference from the first episode going to the finale, where in the finale you're there, you have so much of the context building up into it. So you're, having a bit of an, naturally a little bit more of a shaky camera, adds to that energy even subconsciously.
Yeah, yeah, it just worked out.
It's interesting for me to hear that from even like within Pixar, how much you're, still fighting against the clock on a lot of these larger
It's
creative
always
decisions.
I wouldn't say fight. It's a dance.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a dance. It's like we got something from the boards. We expanded it. In layout. We get it back to editorial. They kind of pack things back down in animations, and it might goes back out a little bit. It's like, yeah. So it's a dance. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I mean, with, you know, managing so many more teams as the cinematographer on all these shows, you've learned that dance quite well, it seems. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like but that's how it goes. It's just like it's collaborative. It's not one person say this is it. It's like even from the producer, the directors, everyone is super collaborative. And
And how do you know when to like, pull back in a way? Like if you have like an ambition or you're in a meeting and you're talking about something, or you're dancing with the timeline and you're trying to figure out, what exactly to cut down on.
I don't think that is anything like a specific rule, right? You just like there might be certain moment, there's certain shot that you're more attached to, right? It's like, okay, I really like that shot, because like really showcase this moment. And then you would I would work with the editors. I really like that shot. Can we get that shot in? And then the editor say, well, I mean, I didn't put that shot in because of this and this. Doesn't really work. So okay, if I really want that shot, I need to fix the other two shots. It's like this is how we work. So and sometimes like that's a good thing about like Pixar too. When the director always will listen to your suggestions or comments, or everyone's suggestions and comments, and they would usually would say, okay, that's a I like that idea, but we couldn't use it because there's always a reason. It's not they don't just brush you off or say no, I don't like it. So I think that's a collaborative spirit of Pixar. It's like everyone wants to contribute and make things better, and the director will make the decisions and let you know that, oh, this will work, or that this doesn't work. And sometimes it becomes a conversation, right? The director might say, yeah, this doesn't work, because of this, and then you might have another idea, so it becomes a conversations. So I think that's our creative process.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. I find it's not, I'm still I mean, I'm seeing that in my own way with the other. I've co-directed a lot of animated shorts, and I've realized that we've done it where we're working on very tight timelines. You know, having to like complete an animated film in a week, and so there'll be like conversations we'll have early on where we realize, okay, we see it differently, and then we'll just be like naturally through the process of of collaborating and making the film, we'll be like, okay, let's put a pin on this, and then we'll come back to it. And over time, there'll be like a couple of those things we'll come back to, and we'll just realize like actually I mean, I don't feel as passionately about this as you do. You're
Yeah,
clearly like
yeah.
you're seeing something in this that I don't.
Exactly. It's like my general rules are like if I something I'm really passionate about, I would say, okay, we should really do this. And it's like, nah, so I like this better, because of this. Like, okay, and if I see it again, I'll keep suggesting it. I may say it like if I really believe in it, I might say it 3 times. By the time I say it 3 times, if you still don't think that's a good idea, it's okay. I'll let go. It's fine. It's not. I'm not. I'm trying to help the director mix their movie. So I of course I want them to be comfortable in their decisions. I shouldn't push something that I think is right. But then again, I could be wrong too. you
Yeah.
know, I could be
That's
wrong
true.
too. Which is a very good possibility. So it's like this is what I think. Say it 3 times, and if they don't take it, great. Okay. Moving on.
It's all about keeping step with the dance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I guess now, like, zooming out a bit on your whole Pixar career, and like I'm curious in your own sense, like what makes certain projects more enjoyable or more fulfilling than others, and like how has your own definition of fulfillment within a project or within your creative life evolved over time?
Fulfillment.
Just a quick casual question,
Yeah. I think the fulfillment is I think is like working on a project that you're proud of, that is a film that you like to see, and you use a film that you would see it over and over again because you love it. I think that is the goal. I love all the films that I worked on that I would watch it again, except for The Incredibles. I still can't watch it. The Incredible was a hard film to make, and it was my first one. There are some things that I would do different, especially the opening scenes. Just a lot of very 2D-ness to some of the staging. But yeah, well, I think the fulfillment really comes from looking back at the movie. You're proud to show your kids. You're proud to show your family.
I feel like also within your own, journey at Pixar, you brought in so many more tools and realistic, whether it be like lenses or camera setups. Now that I think we're kind of technologically reaching this point where, we can pretty much technically match the real life camera, like what excites you when you're looking forward into like how either the technology or the language might develop.
This is just more like a production process. I do like VR. I wish we can do more of the explorations in VR, so that we can have the directors and two DPs and the production designers all standing in this virtual space and making changes. That would be cool. That's something that I wanted to do like since Toy Story 4, and it's like we just never really got it to a point that is like production friendly. I think that would be good. I'm excited about what we can do with lenses, because I think we can get to a point that we can mimic a lot of different lenses. But the cool thing is, because it's the computer, we can actually make our own lens. If I like the distortion from this lens, the breathing in this lens, I like the bokeh in this lens, and I like the lens flare in this one, we can actually build our own. And it's more like season to taste. We can more season to taste. That might be something that might be fun to do, because like lately you see a lot of film that is shot with the Petzval lens, with a swirly bokeh. Yeah, well, I mean, we can maybe build a lens that is anamorphic with a swirly bokeh. I mean, we can do that. And what that look like? Since it's in the computer, I can morph from one lens to another in one shot. So if there's a specific story point I want to hit, that I need something changed. I can't do stuff like that. What we have been doing at Pixar, at least in the layout department, is always okay. This is what the real camera can do, and we just want everything to, we don't want to do anything that's too computery. But I think we could embrace the computer a little bit more, so we can do something a little bit special. But as long as it's not distracting. It goes back to, you want the visual to support the story. What the story needs. Why do you have this particular lens? Why do you have this particular bokeh? Why do you have the particular camera movement? Everything needs to mean something. It goes back to the meaning, right? So you have to give your shots meaning, because meaning makes the film better.
Are there any particular like use cases you see for like machine learning or like tools within the layout or cinematography of films that you think will be, might be adapted more quickly? Like does that, or how do you see that really changing things in Pixar's production process?
I'm sure there are places we can use it. Maybe we can use AI to analyze something, right? It's like, okay, so I really like the Wes Anderson look. So how do I make this frame looks more like Wes Anderson? You know, you know, what lens, where's the perspective? Like stuff like that. It might help me analyze something. But in terms of productions, I don't think we can actually use it. But there's stuff like stopgap, like stuff that is not gonna be final pixel, but stuff to like get me moving forward might be nice. It's like, okay, I can ask, can you give me a 3D model of a hammer? And then once I have it, I just install something I can use instead of me building it out of prims. Those are nice things that can get me going quicker. It's just something temporary I can use to get my shots out. That might be nice. Yeah. But we have been using machine learning to do denoising for like a few years now. So let's get our render out faster.
No, I remember you talked about how like traditionally for animation, you would do, was it camera action lights, but
Yeah. Yeah.
more and more it's like the camera and the lights are being brought closer together, like through more real-time technologies, and I could see that at least being potentially, if there's really much more advanced denoising systems or something, even beyond that that can approximate light better to like at least to like fully bring together a real-time final production quality.
Yeah. That
uh
that is, of course, is still the holy grail. It's like real time rendering. Those all can see the lights in the Presto in our programs. That would be ideal. But anything that we have to render, it just wouldn't work for us. Just because like layout works so fast and we built so many shots. I think besides the story or art department, layout throw away the most work, right? Because we would build. I think our shooting ratio is like sometimes 4 to 5 to 1. You know, for like Win or Lose has like 2,800 shots, and I think we deliver like 11,000 shots to total to editorial.
wow, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, so when you
Yeah.
say your layout ratio is 4 to 5 to 1, what are each of those numbers
Like
meaning?
for 4 to 5, it's like you we should shoot 4 to 5 shots, and then you'll cut down to 1 shot, right? That's the shooting ratio, right? So it's kind of like, yeah. So 11,000 shots that we actually delivered to editorial and cut down to 2,800 shots. Yeah. So we do a lot of experiment. We do shots and then got thrown away. So we do throw away a lot of our work, just so the other department doesn't have to. Because once get to animation, it gets a lot more expensive. Animation is to exactly how long the shot is. This is the shot, this is the angle, and this is where the character starts, this is where the character ends, and we don't want to do anything extra because animation is inherently expensive. Yeah, but this is also like how only Pixar works. I think not many studio works like we do. A lot of studio would just like, I think they would just build the boards and then iterate from there. But we kind of do it different. We shoot it like live actions. We shoot it by coverage. So we don't just do this 20 frame that is in the board. We actually shoot the whole beat, from all different angles, and then the editor will cut it like live actions. I think that's also makes like a Pixar cinematography a little bit more different than other studios. Yeah,
I see. Because you think there's more experimentation, like even within
more
the edit?
experimentations, and it's more fluid. It's more like live action approach, basically. I don't think it's the cheapest way to do it, but I think it's a good way.
It'll be cool to see how VR might change that as you really get to experiment more hands-on with actual virtual cameras and going through the scene.
I had such high hopes when Apple Vision comes out, but still haven't really seen much improvement.
Sweet. Well, then I think the very last question, kind of going more into actual art and inspiration, what have been like two or three pieces of film or animation that you've seen recently that you feel like are underrated or underappreciated?
Nothing comes to mind as underrated. I mean, I just finished watching Endor and I love it, and it's everyone loves it, so it's not underrated at all.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, but I do like Japanese cinema a lot. I mean, it's like when I'm working, at least for inspiration anyway, things that I look at for reference. I do like Ozu for one. I do like Kurosawa a lot. So I do go back to those films. For inspirations. For Kurosawa, of course, High and Low, Ikiru, To Live, is great. That one, Ikiru, is especially inspire Up a lot.
Hmm. Oh, yeah. I could see that
Yeah.
now.
Okay. Yeah, and of course, yeah, Seven Samurai, yeah, Yojimbo, yeah, you name it, yeah, Hidden Fortress, yeah, tons of those, So all those are great movies. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of weird stuff lately, so
Really? How
yeah.
so? What, like what?
Well, my daughter always turned me on to some bad movies that I should see. I think that's our thing. It's like she just recommended a film to me. It's called The Invisible Raptor.
Hmm. Is
So
it as the title suggests about an invisible
it it
raptor?
it it, it is. It's it's those like campy, funny movies. It's something that I when I was a kid, I love to watch those films.
Yeah, yeah. For me in high school, I always come back to Ferris Bueller's Day Off as being a inspirational movie that is just fun and it's just about like a high schooler. Like, it was written in 2 weeks and about a high schooler who just wants to take the day off and have an adventure in the city. But good stuff. Well, yeah, I know we're a little bit over an hour and a half here, so thank you for being on this first episode here. I'm excited to put it all
My
together,
honor
put
to
it
be
out
your
there.
first guest.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I hope to get see you again soon in person.
Yes, for sure.
And for podcast listeners, if you want to like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff, feel free to leave a comment for questions or types of questions you want me to ask in the future, or any feedback and all of that. And yeah, thanks for listening.